Quiet on set.
Roll camera.
Sound speed.
Mark, please. And action.
Season 2 finale, take 1, marker. Welcome back to Students in Focus. I'm Katie, student producer at the Utah Education Network. Can you believe we're wrapping up our second season of the show? This season, we've continued to explore the incredible creativity of students across the state of Utah. To kick off our season finale, we have the first music video to air on the show. This piece was put together by students at SUU and was a finalist at the Focus on the Future Film Festival.
My voice box comes with fuzz. Do I have to live like everyone else does? Am I imagining the man in the moon? Or do I have to scrub it off like wet paper off an old rusty spoon? Or was it beautiful? My suitcase is full of daisies and darlings. Stay, please, dear starlings, I stole her smile. It's softened. She sits there in her coffin, leaning to the dirt to be spread thin. The shovel is bending, the wood still pretending he doesn't wish he had been where she's been. 'Cause he knows she was beautiful. My suitcase is full of daisies and darlings. Stay, please, dear starlings, I stole. And you don't own any mirrors, just pictures of people you like. Sitting on fears, don't leer, stay clear of the punch that's been spiked. And I'm kissing with safety pins, hissing the snake that's been stumbling in the garden while parting, wrapping letters in twine. And I'll try not to miss the summertime, 'cause it was beautiful. God, the moon was full. Now eclipse is starting, my eyes begin parting from my gold. 'Cause it's so beautiful. My suitcase is full of daisies and darlings. Stay, please, dear starlings, I stole.
We're looking for student-produced films and videos to feature on TV. Learn more at uen.org/studentsinfocus to have your media considered for an upcoming episode of Students in Focus. Next, we sat down with Sarah, Audrey, and Lillian, the team behind Dear Starlings. This wasn't their first time collaborating, and they told us they definitely want to work together on a project again in the future.
I decided to go to SU to major in filmmaking, and I have found a lot from it. I discovered that I love art in like so many different aspects, poetry, music, and filmmaking, all that stuff. So that's kind of where I got my interest from being surrounded by people who were also interested in filmmaking and seeing what their interests were, and finding out that I loved it too. So
I feel like I've always been interested in movies and watching those, but it wasn't until maybe my second year in college where I started actually considering making them, and we just kind of, went with it and made our first one. And Sarah and I worked together on every project we've done. So from the beginning to this one and then continuing after that. So it was definitely and I really enjoy seeing what's behind the curtain and working on things that before were just kind of magic on the screen.
I went to college for theater actually, but it wasn't until I did Battle of the Bands, which Sarah was a judge for, and I won, that I started taking it seriously and pursuing it as a career. Poetry was my first love. I love songwriting and playing the guitar, so ever since then it's just kind of spiraled into what it is now, and I'm really grateful and I love it.
Lily and Audrey have been, we've worked together in terms of the beginning of discovering filmmaking and music, I suppose. Lily was the first actress in our short film. It was called Tender. She introduced us to so many actors and actresses. Lily, you inspired us to just keep going with it, and Audrey as well. You kept writing beautiful projects and we just kept working on it. So I think that this team was really just what started this passion for filmmaking, I suppose.
I wrote Dear Starlings right after my house flooded, actually. So I was a bit homeless for a few weeks. I was just crashing on a bunch of friends' couches, and I had brought my guitar up. I was in between two stone pillars up in the canyon, and I had just had my guitar and I was writing it at midnight. You can hear in the original audio that I sent to Audrey and Sarah, you can hear the cars driving by because I was right next to a highway when I wrote it. And I wanted it to be more avant-garde in expressing my feelings towards certain just change, life changing, and being okay, reconciling with some of the choices that I had made.
Lily creates this beautiful song and we're like, well, we want to make a music video and we want to support you. We've been working with each other. We've kind of established we're a little bit of a team. And so we were like, let's make this, let's do it. So I'd say that's how we kind of collaborated together.
I feel like we, like all college students, kind of suffered from we're going to do these big grandeur things and then we never have time for it. But then it just so happened, I don't even remember who saw it, but there was a contest for a music video at SUU, and immediately it got sent out into the group chat, and we were like, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it for this. And it was really funny because other than one other person, we were the only ones who did one to an original song. I think we greatly misinterpreted what their goal was with this competition, but we're glad we got a music video out of it.
I was the producer and editor, and in the producer side of things, mostly what I did is I just made sure that we were all squared away with our location and our gear, communicated with people. We had probably the most extras we've ever had on a project before, so I was just kind of asking Lily's friends. That was a really cool thing. Lily was just I just want my friends to attend the funeral part of it. So I was like, great. And then we asked, Lily did some asking too. We just made sure everyone knew when to be there and how to dress, normal producer things. And then in the editing stage, I just edited and I tried to follow the vision that Audrey had as best as I could. And it was really fun editing the dancing sequence because that was probably the most I don't really know what to do. I didn't we just kind of figured it out together, I would say, trying to make the movements as fluid as possible and feel like it was expressing what was felt in the music at the moment. So that was a really cool aspect of the editing.
So I did storyboards and then communicated with our camera and grip, who McKenna Murphy and Maddie Fate, and they both worked to make it happen once we were on set, and then I was moral support afterwards for Sarah as she edited.
I obviously wrote the song. I did the music. I made the guitar, but the production was done by my friend James, and the drums were done by Sheldon Stevenson, who's also a student at SUU. And I guess you could call me a choreographer, though I just improv'd. I love improv dance, and so we just turned on the song over and over again and dance, and I just made up moves for hours and hours. It was super fun. My legs were so exhausted afterwards, but it was like probably one of my favorite days because of that. Since it was the first time I'd ever experienced doing a music video of that scale, it was so beautiful to see something just start as a rough idea or just a conversation even between like really close friends and kind of snowball into the beautiful music video that it turned into. It was kind of magical to see when things wouldn't work out or when things did, and how we would work around problems. Problem solving was so fun, and I feel like we learned a lot about each other's like artistic visions, and I'm really excited for the next projects. I agree. I'm excited to work with these two again. I miss them drastically. So
recently we were working on Sarah's thesis project for her major, and I could just see so many of the techniques that we had used in this video happening during the editing of the thesis film. And it really just shows how when you learn the skill, you can apply it to so many different directions. Because even though they're nothing alike, like you would not be able to find a similarity in the skills that Sarah was using, specifically in that editing, you can really see how much you can build on past projects.
My professors were like, there's this big festival you guys should submit to. They really want SU students to submit. And I was like, of course, I'm going to submit. We had 2 projects actually that were shown there. It was another one that Lily starred in. It's called Refectory. It was more of a Western siren sort of thing. And then we had Dear Starlings. So it was really neat. I just went on Film Freeway and I found it and I was able to upload. They were very, very kind. They were like, congrats, you made it in. It was very nice to hear that. Awesome. It was really exciting to hear that we'd made it into this festival. It was like the first one that we had done outside of anything that was like SUU related. So that was really neat. It was just really, really cool to be able to see that people saw our work and wanted to showcase it. That was, I think the coolest thing about that for sure is like we were seen and it seemed like people liked it. So that's really the coolest thing I would say.
I also think it's a really good reminder, like being able to go and see other people's films. You remember, first of all, that you're not the only one. You're not existing in a vacuum. But also, it's a good reminder like what people are able to do with as little money as possible. We like to say that we make films with nothing more than a bag of croutons, because that's kind of what it feels like. You're doing anything in your power to get it done, but you also have like 3 quarters to your name.
I just think it's really necessary to like appreciate and any kind of like art, especially when it's done in college, because there's so much work that goes into specifically film making and so much collaboration. It feels like to be appreciated in that sense and to know that somebody is watching it and is seeing all the work that you do, it can really inspire artists, especially at our age, to continue on our journeys and our life paths. So.
When people think of Sundance, they think of a world of independent films and filmmakers. But they're all a part of something much, much bigger. At the heart of it all is the Sundance Institute, a nonprofit arts organization that supports extraordinary artists, their culture-shifting work, and connects them with passionate audiences. We're a global stage for independent storytellers, and we amplify the impact of their work in the world. We discover next-gen voices and provide the resources they need to bring their stories to life. We support artists who are building new realities to explore. And we connect emerging storytellers everywhere with decades of experience and expertise. The Sundance Institute is bringing together artists, film lovers, educators, funders, and industry to evolve our world through stories.
To wrap up, we have a spotlight on producer and actress Eden Bostrom. Eden recently graduated from BYU and is an assistant producer with the Summer Creative Agency. Originally from Seattle, she came to Utah to study acting and has loved immersing herself in the state's vibrant film scene.
When I was still a student, I worked for the BYU College of Fine Arts and Communications. I worked in their public relations office, and the College of Fine Arts and Communications every year puts out a documentary series. It's like a short documentary series called Arts and Comms, Behind the Stories. So just from working in the office, after some time, I got like a role assisting the producer of the series. And I would often go on set to just kind of like be a student, just kind of learn and watch, but I started to become a little bit more involved with distribution and a little bit more involved in planning the production days and just kind of worked up from there. And these were my first experiences kind of like being behind the camera and like having a say and like what was going on set. And so from that I gained a lot of confidence, and I worked with Becca on this project. She was brought in to help film and kind of create and be like an artistic director on the series. And so we got to know each other through that, and when I graduated, she asked me if I'd want to work with Summer Creative Agency. It's a female-founded agency, always looking to like promote women in film. And I was totally on board. That was like a dream come true. So specifically the College of Fine Arts and Communications, that documentary series is amazing. Like it explores like students and their stories and like what they're doing with their arts education, and like how broad that really is, like what it means to be in like fine arts and communications and just all the things that you can do for the world with that. I loved it as like a student from that college, being able to like promote those stories and learn about like just how broad the world is and like how much we need art and we need good communicators and good storytellers. So it was really, really inspiring. As a producer at Summer Creative Agency, I am in charge of kind of organizing production days, as well as assisting the director, Becca Summers, and just making sure that like everything internally is working out and that we have everything planned and prepped for when we actually go and like film people. And then I also work inside the agency, like promoting and distributing the material that like we've created and showcasing what we can do for clients and all the different things that we create and make. So it's a lot of different hats when I'm on set and a lot of different hats when I'm just working for home and internally. My favorite thing is being on set, and part of like being a producer and an assistant producer is kind of becoming an expert on all of these different people that we interview and these stories that we tell. And I may not know like a lot about the subject or exactly the full scope of the story that we're telling, but as like I prep for these production days and as I'm on set listening to these people, I feel like I walk away with like a little like niche expertise that I can then go and like share and get really excited about as I like promote and tell the story. I have always kind of been interested in like performance mainly. So when I was a kid, I did theater, I don't know, like stories and stuff like that. And then I graduated in acting from BYU, and so that put me on set a bunch. And when I was on set, I started to like get more and more curious about like the actual like process of like making a film, and started like diving into more of that and like trying to be on set as much as possible. And that's where I met Becca, who runs Summer Creative Agency, and she brought me in as a producer, and it's been absolutely amazing. Like, I love knowing what's going on behind the camera as someone who started in front of the camera. So I work from home usually, and there's about 2 or 3 times a month I'll go into the office or be on set for production. But when I work from home, I will usually jump on my computer and kind of like just run through my email and kind of separate things from like client work to like internal work. And for client work, that'll look like scheduling and like confirming with people, and then internal work will sometimes look like promoting some of the projects we've done on social media for our own marketing. We'll meet with clients and we'll figure out exactly what they want, and my role often within that is to create what's called like a pitch deck and kind of just break down like the services that we offer, as well as kind of help our client understand like what we can do for them and how we can tell their story. And in those like meetings and in those sessions, like we'll really break down and be like, what are you looking for? What's your story? How can we tell it? Like, what resources do we need? So often we'll have meetings virtually where we'll discuss that, and it's my job to kind of take notes and also go forward and prepare like the next kind of round of review and conversation. I love like figuring out what the needs are, and then, you know, turning on like the producer part of my brain where it's like, how do we make that happen? Like, what's reasonable, what's possible, where can we stretch, where can we push, and yeah, like find like the surprising things where it's like, oh, that is a possibility. We can totally film there, or we can totally film that. So I think Utah is one of the best places to start as a filmmaker, and even to start as an actress. I would say I'm very young and like very new in like my filmmaking career and as in my acting career, but it's been such like a wonderful community to just like dive into. There are so many different perspectives and like so many different people like coming from different places to Utah, and just like the landscape in Utah is so diverse. Like, you can film any season here, and like any kind of like from small town to like big city to the mountains. Like, we just have it all. And like this past year since I've graduated, I've found like a really wonderful group of filmmakers where everyone is willing to work on each other's projects and just kind of like help you turn what would, you know, be like just a simple like passion project into something that like is much bigger than it ever could have been, something that goes through festivals and something that people see and they're like, yes, that's amazing. So I love working as a filmmaker here, and as an actress, there are so many opportunities once you just kind of like dive in and even start making your own opportunities. It's amazing. And when I graduated, I would still love to go to LA, but I was surprised like after a few months of being in Utah still, like how much I loved it and how much I was finding and how much I felt inspired, and also the space to create my own work, which I don't know if I would have felt that if I'd gone to LA, where it's just so big and like everyone has all this experience, and it's just kind of hard to like find a community from what I've heard from friends that are out there. But I feel like while I've been here in Utah, I've found that community of filmmakers that are like, yes, absolutely, like how can we make your project come to life, and are just willing to do it, you know, and that space. And yeah, I love it here. It's great. I would advise new people entering the filmmaking industry just to keep doors open. A year ago, I never would have considered myself to be like a full-time producer. I thought I was going to go out and just act and voice act and perform and everything. And that just wasn't, you know, like in the cards for me. It was something different. And just from like keeping my doors open and my mind open to different possibilities, I found this role at Summer Creative Agency that has been so perfect for me and my interests, and ultimately, you know, where I want to go in my career. And when I was a student, I just didn't know the range of possibilities there were for an artist or for a filmmaker specifically, and what that looked like. You know, I feel like you sometimes go into school and you're like, there are only 3 things I can do with my major that I'm graduating in, but in reality, there are endless possibilities, some of which you can find and some of which you can make. And I think I've learned in this past year that I can make my own opportunities. I can go and find opportunities, and they're gonna be amazing and great. But the ones that I make will be the most rewarding and lead to the greatest other opportunities and the greatest other connections. sometimes it's hard to remember as a student, and I'm still learning this too. I've only been graduated for about a year, but remembering like your career is gonna be like 40 years plus or whatever sometimes. And just like, there are so many different routes and possibilities that you can go. You don't have to lock into one thing right away or be nervous when you graduate that you're not doing what you want to do yet. I think that was like a huge point of pressure for me as I graduated. I saw a lot of my friends move to New York and like start acting out there, and I wanted to be there, but I was still here in Utah, and I was like, I'm not doing like what I spent all this money and time preparing myself to do. But then I kind of took a look around and I was like, actually I am. I'm producing. I'm doing something that like I need to do, not just want to do, but I need. And I feel like I'm finding a space in the industry that needs me. And that is like way more rewarding than like doing what I thought I would be doing. So.
Thanks to Eden for her great advice and for sharing her story with us. And thank you for joining us for another season of Students in Focus. We've had so much fun showcasing student stories this past year. We can't wait to bring you even more in Season 3 this fall. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next episode. And you can check out past episodes at UENVideo. And don't forget, you can submit your student projects to be featured here on Students in Focus. See you next time.